Hey everyone, and welcome to my show. My name is Nick Elston. I'm a leading inspirational speaker, creator of unique mental health engagement strategies, a transformational speaking coach, and founder of Forging People, a community created to empower, inspire, and educate people who truly want to be heard in life and in business. On these shows, I bring you the storytellers, celebrities, speakers, influencers, entrepreneurs, those who have gone from adversity to excitement, who share their stories with vulnerability, transparency, inspiration, and most importantly, completely unfiltered. So without any further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode of The Nick Elston Show. Hey everyone, and a big welcome back to the Nick Elston Show. It's season 3, episode 19. We are closing in on the final episodes of this season and of the year, as we are now in December 2021. Where the hell is this year gone? It's crazy. But I am bringing you a guest, a very special guest today. Somebody I tried to get onto season 2, but the season finished too soon. This guy is great. He's a really good guy. We first crossed paths at the Welsh business shows, and I was all the way down the other side of the stadium, and I heard this guy open the show from the other side of the stadium, and I thought, I've got to get to know this guy. And it kind of went from there. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Paul Rees.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for having me on, man. It's great to be here. And before you ask, it's a yes always to come on your shows. Yeah, you're a man, you're a gentleman. It's always great to be part of whatever you're doing, because the authenticity that you put into your work is just second to none. It's beautiful. It really is.
Thank you, mate. And likewise, having been on your show twice now, I think that an amazing podcast one. I'm sure we'll come on to that too. But before we go anywhere, I've always forget to do the basics. Tell people who you are and what you do. As
suggested, I'm Paul Rees, although my wife calls me other things. What I am is a business designer. So I design business, and we specialize in designing and modernizing the USP of a business, and really building and reshaping that business into what we call is then the high income, low maintenance market, basically the 20% of the market that very few businesses strive to get into. Everybody's in the noisy part of the market, and that's because there's so much business envy right now because of the last 2 years. And let's dive straight into the deep end.
Let's do it and
go for it. Because here's the thing, Nick, is I've been talking about this for the last few weeks with my clients and on the podcast and things, and I'm the opportunity to share it with some of your mindset. I'm sure we'll grow the idea, but people are in the depth right now of this business envy wave. We could say life envy also, because social media. We live on social media. Myself, we are a spotlight. So it means everything we do, we live in a goldfish bowl, basically. And try to keep some personal part of life personal as much as we can, but there's this old wave of and I'll say again, business envy, where you see on the socials, LinkedIn, Facebook, and all the fantastic places that people are constantly promoting. It's going great, it's going fantastic, it's going fabulous, and then what happens is other business people are looking at it and thinking, wow, why ain't I there? Why is that not happening to me? When actually, everybody's creating this camouflage. This camouflage of what is really going on. And they are thinking if they present a synthetic strength, that it'll actually protect the business and it'll protect their ego, it'll protect, the customer base, when actually it's doing the opposite. The reality is that, most businesses, especially in the knowledge industry, it's flatlined, but not to the point of irreversible. It flatlined the point you have to think again, thankfully, because the knowledge industry was going all over the place. It was losing a lot of authenticity in it. So it needed this period where it made everybody find the strongest part of themselves, reevaluate, and really look at the authenticity within them, and then bring that forward into their work instead of hiding behind what is the business name, the business suit. I did it for many years.
Yeah,
for many years I did that, and to me, what I'm saying to people is, let's springboard into next year. We're coming now with it. We're at this month. It's the last month of the year. Don't wind yourself down, push yourself so you springboard into next year, but springboard in there with authenticity. It's okay to say to your client, I have plenty of room because I'm nowhere near capacity. It's okay to say that. It's okay to say, I'm pricing at this point right now because I need to fill my pipeline again. My pipeline emptied because my business kind of flatlined because nobody wanted coaching. But that don't make me a bad coach. It means that the whole market changed because it changed throughout the world.
Yeah,
it's okay
absolutely.
to say these things.
And you're quite right, and especially on social media, you're comparing your spun version of the truth against somebody else's spun version of the truth. Very rarely you comparing like for like, and very, very often it's superficial. Very often people will post for inspiration, as you said, or for desperation, but very rarely in between. And I think that's maybe why we have clicked all the way through this. It's because actually we kind of just tell people how it is right now. Even when it's not the done thing professionally, kind of thing. So I know when I was working for Tesco, working 36 hours a week delivering groceries, when I first started to go self-employed, that entrepreneurial journey, dressed in high vis, and I did a video and I put it on LinkedIn on a Sunday morning. I said, look, this is what I'm doing to keep the dream alive. This is what I'm doing to get towards where I want to be. And people thought it was like suicide via LinkedIn. But what it did actually, that so many people said, yeah, I'm working a plan B to get to my plan C as well. And so many people tuned into that because actually we're not used to hearing the truth with capital T's, are we? And
exactly.
And that's the thing. And like you said, over the past 19 months, especially because it's pushed people people have been operating from a position of fear. And as we know, people make bad decisions from a position of fear. My way of dealing with that was in March when the business died, because unlike many forward-thinking people, all of my stuff was done in person, both with the speaking, coaching and the speaking. So the business died for 3 or 4 months. But I think that's where then the application kicks in, because I kept on doing the right things, still having conversations, still contributing, still remaining authentic and that kind of stuff. And then suddenly it was like a tap turned back on. So it's kind of like a test to get sent our way, right?
Yeah. I think, it's a test in emotional stamina. Here's the thing, is like, how much value do you hold on yourself?
Yeah.
When we look at well-being, certainly this has been the greatest test over the last 2 years, but also it really makes you look at, okay, look at your USP. And I don't talk about unique selling point, unique selling person. Look at your unique selling person and look at yourself and, really establish and hold the value of who you are.
Yeah.
And don't measure that by the value that what you see in, or the value of what you're assuming, because let's understand, we're becoming in a massive assumption era right now. Everything is assumption. Where are we going? What is happening? When is this going to change? So everybody now is thriving in the emotion of assumption and the emotion of blame. So we've got blame culture and assumption marrying each other. This is massive. And this is now thriving in the business world. And, we're saying, okay, remember, assumptions are made up emotion. It's a make-believe assumption is. And then when we put blame into that, then that's also a made-up assumption. So what you have to do is take stock, like you have, like I have, and like many are saying, okay, I'm Paul Rees. I'm still that business person. Nothing has changed there. What has changed is the world has changed. So how am I accommodating that? And let's share this to say, when you look at unique selling person, you think, okay, so my profile is my business. Paul is my business. Where am I going to fit now? So the whole market has changed. The mindset has changed, everything. So let's say there's three types of client. And this is what's important for people to remember is you have to think about the clients. There are low income, high maintenance clients. Then there are high income, high maintenance. Same as low income, high maintenance. They just pay you more to be high maintenance. Then you have the 20%, which is high income, low maintenance. Now remember, these clients, they buy into your values, Nick. Now they will only buy into your values when you believe your own values, Mike. So this is where it starts.
Wow, yeah.
For you to be in that market where someone resonates with what you do for a living, why you do it, without any question. You have to know that for yourself first, or they'll not feel it. You cannot buy a synthetic emotion because it has no longevity to it. So the reason why I'm buying into Nick here, because I absolutely know Nick believes in Nick. I know you believe in your values.
Yeah.
So we're saying, listeners, believe in, you have to know your values. You have to believe in yourself. You have to know yourself. You have to know that you're worth that. And to do that, then present that value out there. Don't scramble yourself in panic. Saturate yourself in trust. Absolutely. That's where you have to start. And then go on, Nick.
I mean, that's huge. I think, and you're quite right, that the past, hand on heart, the past 19 months has probably been my darkest days in quite a long time. And it's also been a period where I've also reached out for help, resuming counseling and therapy again. But it's that self-awareness piece is actually, again, and again, we can go down lots of rabbit holes with this, but it comes down to that acceptance piece, is actually accepting where you are at any one given point in time, even if you're in a position of pain or frustration or difficulty, to fully accept where you are. And then you can make that kind of plan and move forward, can't you? And I think that's the problem, is that we're so scared of vulnerability, even with ourselves, that how do we expect to achieve a depth of relationship with anybody if we're not showing the world our true self? So,
absolutely.
So to me, it makes complete sense. But I've also learned that actually I'm in the minority, because a lot of people, especially in again, a professional kind of setting, are very kind of limited or scared of opening up and showing the true selves. Unfortunately, it's something that is changing. But why are we so scared of vulnerability? What do you see with your kind of clients?
I think that, when we think about vulnerability, it's a fear. Vulnerability describes a word of fear, an emotional fear. So we're afraid of vulnerability because we're afraid of assuming someone's going to say something, someone's going to think something. So vulnerability, so assumption comes after vulnerability, which is again a make-believe emotion. But if we look at vulnerability, we take away vulnerability again when we absolutely know the purpose of our choice. So if we come back to, listen, at the end of the day, I'm a business coach, and we're going to talk about that kind of flavor and how we bounce into 2022 now. But let's establish yourself to do that first. First of all, you have to see yourself. Now, let's touch on this. It's like when people go into business. Now, when you go into business, what you do is become a shop window of every emotion you have. That's it in a nutshell. You can't hide nothing because people are buying from you. So they buy in every ounce of emotion you have. That's getting sold through your product, sold through your service, especially if you're in the knowledge industry like you and I. Then we have to look at, okay, so I say to people, think about what type of business type person are you? That's the most important thing. So many people go into a business world and have no idea why they've actually run a business other than they got something they like doing. You have to establish first, it's the same when you go into a marriage. When you go into marriage, think about why it is you're going into the marriage first. What is important about that marriage to you? What is the marriage going to get out of you? Not what you're going to get out of it. What's the marriage going to get out of you? What's the business going to get out of you? So you think about, so if we say there's 3 business types, there's lifestyle entrepreneur, there's business entrepreneur, and there's business person. Now think of these 3 different people. These are just 3 examples. There's a few more. But if I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur, it means I'm running a business to create a life, my life. I work 4 days a week. Next year, I'll be 3 days a week with a 5-day-a-week business because I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur. If I was a business entrepreneur, then Nick, I'd be looking to open up business after business after business, and I thrive on the rush of that. That's my choice. You're a business person. I work 10 hours a day. I love working hard. That's what I want to be, is just a business person. Establish, first of all, your true choice and recognize your decisions first. Otherwise, people are creating events in their life. They have no foundation to it, Nick, and then they become vulnerable. This is my view on it. I may be a little scatty with this as I'm saying it, but you really have to understand your purpose. When I went into my first marriage, I knew I shouldn't have got married. So did my wife knew we shouldn't have got married. We just did because it was the valley way. It was the valley way to do things. You just got married. It didn't matter. You work out, And then because I didn't have that established choice, of course it didn't work. Lots of things happen like this in life. You have to really understand your choices, understand the purpose of what that choice is going to get out of you, not what you get out of it, what it gets out of you. It's like when you read a book. It's not what you got out of the book, what the book get out of you. What's life getting out of you?
Love that. And I think choice is such a big subject because in my space, that when we kind of look at mental health challenges, for example, when we do experience those downs in life, the first thing we sacrifice is choice, but actually is the only thing that we have.
Yeah.
How we proactively choose to go into that day, knowing that we could be blindsided. But like you said, anxiety is created from the assumed outcome to our pursuits and relationships and conversations, but never in reality. Very rarely is it in reality. It's the assumed outcome or living in regret from the past or fear of the future. So as you say, it's either based on a fairy story or it's based on assumption. But why do we give away the only tool in our armory, Paul Rees? Why do we give away choice? We start to go the ebb and flow of life where maybe negative distraction techniques can kick in. Why do we do that?
I mean, I knew when I was coming on here, I love these technical questions from you. I mean, they deep questions. Here's the thing. We give away our choice because we are loyal to disappointment. Now, let's think about that. When we are loyal to disappointments, it means we are loyal to the disappointment of an emotion that we felt from an action that we keep repeating in a different active way. Now, those disappointments, we inherited those disappointments. So when our beautiful parents, they had their bag of disappointments that they inherit, that they then lovingly, gift to us. And then we keep replaying out those disappointments, which comes in a lack of self-worth, a lack of self-belief, a misunderstanding of life. Where we don't put ourselves and do put ourselves in life. Then what happens is we play out that, well, I don't do that. I don't make that decision because it doesn't work for me. I'm not good at that. I can't do that in life. That's not something I'm good at. Or I don't go and play along, or I don't do. We give these reasons for not doing things, which means that we devalue every opportunity, or we could say choice, every opportunity that comes to us because we want to remain loyal to the disappointing emotional feel of a similar, we could say, actual event that happened long ago in our life. That's how we shrink our choices. We do that because we remain loyal to disappointments.
Fascinating stuff. Yeah, that's a really interesting take, actually. Thank you. See, I knew by asking the question, I'll get a fascinating answer. That's kind of how it works with me and you, isn't it? So
it's a natural thing that all of us do, until we actually look at it. I went through bankruptcy because I was loyal to disappointment. And I'll share it quickly with you. My mother was a case catalog agent. For those who don't know, she was a mail catalog agent. So she ran a mail catalog for a bigger company. So all our Christmas presents, all our birthday presents were bought from a mail order catalog and paid over a 52-week period. So basically, I grew up believing subconsciously that credit was happiness because all my gifts were bought on credit. All my Christmases were bought on credit. So when I went to business the first time round, what happened is every time my business started to fail a little, I got another credit card, because subconsciously credit was happiness. So I was remaining loyal to that disappointment of my parents not being able to afford to buy gifts, so they did it on credit. Do you see?
I get that.
It's so layered, but everybody got it.
I guess this is longer than a kind of a 15-minute podcast, but in terms of how do you break that cycle with people? How do you work with people and engage people to kind of break that belief system? Because we all know, let's face it, if somebody gives us a real kind of raw truth or calls you out on something and they're right, we don't want to say that, but they're right, it hurts. You get aggressive and you get sensitive, and very often we need to move the hell out of our own way, but we don't, because we get defensive when we start to break our conditioning. How do you kind of counter that as a coach working with clients to try and help them?
Well, generally, when clients come to myself, they are ready to be teased out of that rabbit hole. And you have to be careful. There's only two ways to get someone out the rabbit hole, and that's show them a carrot or throw in a ferret.
So if I took a slip of coffee, I didn't expect that line coming.
And generally, neither of them are the best ways. They have to be ready. So when I work with clients and we talk about these triggers and traits, what we do is we deep dive look at, and we do it in categories. So you look at your relationship with money, your money values. And then you look at, so we all got different money values, Nick. We both work on the English pound, but a fiver to me is different to a fiver to you, but yet the fiver is exactly the same measure in money. But emotionally, we have different values to a £5 note. Do you see? Which
again relates back to carrying other people's expectations as money.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you don't, let's look at this, on a simplistic level. There is no capping in this country of how much money you can earn in life. There's no capping on how successful you can be in life. And I'm not talking about a monetary level, but a life level. There's no capping until you train your life to be unsuccessful, or to cap it where it is, or to say, I'm only worth this amount of money in my life. I'm only worth this amount of life success in my life. You cap that measured by your loyalties, disappointments. How you then break that is, first of all, we recognize your patterns, how you are growing your business module, or how you are effectively training your business module not to grow. Everybody out there right now is training their business module not to grow. Isn't that crazy? Everybody's, because when we go to company's house, it's in this country, that's where we go to when we go to company's house to register our business, that business module knows one direction: success through excellence of service, excellence of product. That's all it knows. Then we train it to be unsuccessful. We actually have to coach that business module to go outside of what it's organically designed to do, and that's be successful by inheriting into it our traits and triggers of disappointment.
Are you truly being heard in life, in education, in business? Your ability to deliver any message with clarity, power, and emotion will have an ultimately defining impact on your success, personally and professionally. Forging People, founded by Nick Elston, is an online community developed to empower, inspire, engage, and educate you to truly step up. Complete with online courses, early access to in-person coaching and events, free resources, and a community of like-minded people, Forging People will help you manage anxiety, boost confidence, and give you the tools to speak to any audience, whether it's one person or 1 million people. Speaking is more than just standing on stage. Speaking is business. Speaking is leadership. Speaking is influencing. Speaking is life. Contact Nick's team today on pa@nickelston.com or visit nickelston.com today to register your interest. This is the sign you've been looking for. Wow.
We do that.
By default then, and I guess the same rules apply personally as professionally, that we then start to create a future based on our perceived failures of the past.
Yes.
Or the limiting beliefs of the past.
Absolutely. But those limiting beliefs, remember, we didn't come with them. We came with a clean slate. We had the ingredients of which was life success, which was saturated right through us. Because let's face it, we're very powerful little things. We teach ourselves to walk. We teach ourselves to speak. We teach ourselves to eat and develop in our eating process from fluids to solids. We teach ourselves to do all these things without any understanding of communication, really, only the emotions of the environment we're in. How intelligent is that? Then what we do then, Nick, is we dumb ourselves down.
Wow, yeah.
We dumb ourselves down then by inheriting everybody else's disappointments that's going on around them through that emotional environment. That's when we start dumbing ourselves down. Yeah. And that's when
we've gone big quite quickly, really, haven't we? It's a typical, for those who are kind of like watching this and listening to this, this is a normal conversation for me and Paul. This isn't put on, this isn't scripted. It's just a normal chat. Now, I've had a real pleasure of being on your show, as I said. Give the podcast a shout out, actually. What's the podcast?
Oh, it's UK Health Radio. So it's a digital radio that I do once a week. If you go onto UK Health Radio and type in Paul Rees, you come up, all the shows are on there. And your shows are on there also, because they permanently up there, yeah.
Amazing. And I went on with your amazing lady, Deborah, Deb.
Yeah.
And great episode. As part of that episode, we kind of started to go into the area of kind of like faith, or maybe not so much faith, but core values kind of thing. What do we draw our inspiration and our motivation from? What would you say around your core values? Who motivates the motivator?
So, well, I have a support system for one. I have about 6 people, I'm going to say, on a professional sense in my life that are a big part of my support system, and I always say to people, you have a support system around you where people you can go to talk to professionally about your business, and they're in the same industry or similar. Personally, then, I go to 2 people. I go to, of course, my wife. I mean, Deborah is an amazing life strategist, and we have some, like our conversation here, very similar that goes on. So she's an inspiration for me. And then my eldest daughter, she's 22, and Nick, that era coming through is just phenomenal. It's huge. It's fantastic, and she's very profound in her ideas. And I remember her telling me once. I remember asking her, what are your biggest fears, Danielle, moving forward, becoming an adult of my age? She said, well, my biggest fear, Dad, when I get your age, is actually my era is going to be running a country. She said, that's my biggest fear. And I said, because, Dad, I got my personality through a digital device. I got my sense of humor through a digital device and my self-worth. You've been a great dad, but trust me, my likes and kudos meant a lot to me in my early part of my life, as I felt on that day. And she said, and we're going to run a country at some point. She said, that to me is a worry. And I was like, wow, So she really is a big influence to me. But if I were to say in the business world, Nick, I'm a big fan of Branson. Who isn't?
Yeah, absolutely. What about personally? How in terms of do you have a routine to make sure that you not only safeguard and protect your energy to help other people, but also to kind of give yourself that boost? What do you love to do away from professional life?
Oh, great question. Well, generally I start my day with meditation. That's my caffeine. I meditate usually 4 to 5 times a week. When I'm flowing, that is for sure. I love mountain biking. That I'm an outdoor person, so I need that rough and tumble, and I love playing the drums.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, I'm a big drum man. It's digital free. It started my life about 3 years ago. I'm a big AC/DC man, so I love pounding the drums. That for me is, and I like going off grid. So I am someone that likes to go camping, purely because I like to find somewhere where there's no network, no internet connection, no network. And generally when me and Deb go on vacation, we look for somewhere where there's a black spot so we can't get any phone signal. And we purposely do that. And I like to make sure I build into my week digital free time. And this isn't bedtime now. I'm talking purpose built in digital free time, where you're disciplined with that. That's generally what I would do.
I love that. Well, in terms of kind of that online presence and social media and things, that something that you're active on, again, that influence your kind of, not just your well-being, of course, but your mentality by that kind of, sometimes you get toxicity, or sometimes you have kind of like negative interactions, that kind of stuff, as well as the positive stuff, of course, it has to be said. Is that something you've experienced, and how do you manage that?
Well, in the early days, it used to affect me. This week, someone wrote to me on LinkedIn, and this was a solicitor, and said to me, this message is very poorly written. Why would I want to engage in your coaching for that reason? Yes, I'm dyslexic. The spelling was right, but punctuation wasn't correct for this particular person. That's pretty hurtful. But what I've learned now is that, people are suffering in all kinds of lives. And what that person did, yes, that person wrote to me that message, but way I figure is, it's giving someone else a break.
Yeah.
You know what it is?
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
It's giving someone else a break. So, if someone can write something like that to me, they can write that to many people. So what I do is I just feel it, understand it, move from it. Let me say that again. Feel it, understand it, move from it. That's how I deal with the negativity now, which means it has a process and a reason.
Do you engage in that negative?
What do you mean, engage back?
In terms of responding, or does it something you let wash over you?
My response was, I said, thank you for the academic lesson. I said, and I said, thank you for the academic lessons. And one of the, and two of the most important ingredients for leaders to learn and change is assumption and blame culture. Have a great week, Paul. And that's how I left, because that's what she was practicing, was assumption and blame, and because she didn't know me. It's just one of those things, but feel it, understand it, move from it.
Yeah, and I think that's quite right. I think it's a really healthy attitude to take, actually. Tell us about kind of Paul Rees, the early years, kind of like your back. If you're on X Factor now, what's your backstory? What's the bit that's going through whilst they play the music in the background? Tell us about your journey to where you are today.
Well, I'm 19 years in now, man.
Wow.
The first 10 years, I blabbed my way into America. That's where I started my coaching.
Yeah.
I was on the back of my bankruptcy, the bankruptcy in this country, and I just wanted to keep going, retry. So in those days, you could get into inboxes. You could email into inboxes, unlike what it is now. And LinkedIn was an easier place to work. And I got myself over to the States on a business expedition as a keynote speaker. And that's what I started. There was a lot of thinking on my feet in those early days, but I knew if I worked with integrity, I would do well. And that did work for me. But, Nick, what happened then is between 8 to 12 years, I lost myself a little. I got caught up in the highlight of it all, this out of town coach in America. And I was eating every 10 months in the States, a really good kind of lifestyle, but I really got lost. And what I didn't realize is that I was going to a place of burnout and I'm going to say mental and emotional crash. And I really lost my way where I lost my integrity in my work. The success rate was coming down. I was blaming clients, not business. I was not blaming myself. I was blaming clients. And then I think it was maybe 12 years in, I thought, okay, I have to really look at this. And I went through burnout. I've been through burnout. I lost 3 months of my life. And I say lost. If people haven't experienced burnout, it is the most frustrating thing you'll ever have. And I'll quickly touch on this because, being a semi-pro athlete, when all of a sudden something happens in your life, you physically cannot move, you emotionally cannot move, and you absolutely cannot get a thought. And all you can do is lay in bed for hour after hour after hour because there's nothing in you that can move. Nothing. Because the only time I got out of bed was when my wife took me from one GP to another GP, to another accident emergency, another emergency hospital, trying to get me put into hospital because I was so sick. Because nothing was coming up in my bloods. Nothing was showing I was unwell, but I was the illest I've ever been in my life. All I could do was stare at the ceiling all day. And, burnout is such a strange thing. When I went through burnout, my realization was that life was far more important than running the business and running my life the way I was. When you run on a synthetic ego, the universe lets you know that that's not life. That's not even pretend. It's somewhere, nowhere. And people, let these listeners understand there's a difference in authentic and unauthentic ego. Authentic ego is important because what we do in here, we are sharing authentic ego. You're sharing me the success of your business by having me on, guesting onto your platform. You're sharing me that pride. You're sharing me your bragging rights, saying, come on, my Nick show. Come on, you. That's an authentic ego. We have to have that or we don't grow. When we have an unauthentic, a synthetic ego, then all we do is presenting something about us where we want people to feel something. Feel me, look who I am, look what this is about. I did that. And there's so many people are now stuck in that point because of business envy. Don't do it. There is no growth in that at all for you, your family, your business, your friends. There's no growth at all. So when you keep doing it, effectively, you're not energizing yourself. You're not energizing your mind, your heart, because your body can't take in a synthetic energy.
Yeah.
You see? So then, of course, it empties and you crash.
Yeah.
That's burnout.
And business envy is absolutely short term. Yeah. It just shows you on that trajectory kind of forwards. And I've seen this so many times recently. You either go that kind of superficial, like everything is great. People very often say to me, why do I post about what clients I'm working with? Aren't you giving your competition, and that's a whole different conversation, the kind of your prospect, your client list? Well, you could see it that way, or that the fact that I trust that client works with me through choice, or that I'm actually using kind of social proof to say, this isn't me saying I'm busy all the time. This is the client I'm working with. So it's that kind of layer of accountability, isn't it, as well? Yeah. But the competition element is also interesting because I was speaking to another person in the coaching world recently, and they were saying due to the pandemic and obviously subsequent kind of redundancies that they've kind of had this influx of people in the coaching field with very little experience to varying degrees of success. What it's done, it's kind of created a lot of noise. And I do believe, genuinely, I think that life generally is self-policing in a way that the quality and the good will shine through. Yeah. But that does make life difficult for people in the knowledge space, when I think that's why we need to amplify our profile and our visibility. Like I said, the genuine authenticity to actually act as stake your claim that actually this is me. This is I'm worth it. I'm good. This is my quality. This is my credentials, and this is what I'm going to bring. Yeah. And I think that trumps noise every time. Absolutely. Does that make any sense at all? I knew where I was trying to go with that, but it felt like a ramble in the end.
No, it absolutely made total sense. You know, the coaching industry, the knowledge industry is now saturated. We had a surge of executives coming out of employment and into the coaching world, assuming that it was a rich industry. There is a peak point at the industry that is, we're going to say, is exceptionally high invoice. You know, that is there, but it is a very pointed, small part of the coaching industry. But I'm also welcoming in, you know, this surge, because it means then that those who do have credibility, you know, they really have to they really have to make sure they're honing in on the true values of what they're doing. So it's keeping coaches on their feet for the right reasons. You know, it was, with all due respect to the coaching industry, it was an over-invoiced industry. Okay. And, you know, it pushed itself into a pocket of this high invoice reputation when actually it shouldn't be there. You know, coaching should be available for all manners of invoicing rate, all manners. And, you know, as you USP and as you grow your coaching career, then we could say, yes, you become more unique in certain places. But that doesn't mean that your invoice rate becomes at such a place where, you know, it's unaffordable. It needed the shake-up. It needed it. And I think that the whole knowledge industry is going to come out good from this. It's going to come out.
I think so too. I think again, in terms of moving out of our own way, I think there's certainly that case as well. That I said on your show, I worked in corporate sales and partnerships for all of my professional career, in a business-to-business environment. And as soon as I started working in the well-being space generally, I've never met an industry that's so precious and so afraid of competition and anti-collaboration, like as in superficially pro-collaboration, but not really, only to the extent where and I think maybe coaches coming through now will really have to, and that mindset comes from traditional business background, that we fear competition. When I was working in the office solution space, if there was another one in the room in a networking event, my kind of like, will go up kind of things. You feel it. But I think we need to kind of really get good with collaboration and work in that. If we can set our niche, communicate our niche and set our context, there's no one quite like us. There's no one quite like you or me or anybody else. But there we come back to the vulnerability piece. That's where we focus on our stories.
Yeah.
And I think that, for me, that authenticity is the thing that actually means that you are in a market of one. I think that's what we're trying to achieve. But for coaches coming through now, and people maybe even watching this who are new to the coaching industry as a self-employed person, would do really well from reaching out to Paul Rees to get some support. But sometimes, not always, but sometimes there'll be a fear of doing that to show weakness.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few things I'd like to come in with. First of all, collaboration is so important now. On my courses, I have 6-month formulas. I have 2 other coaches that work with me within that. So I contract in 2 other coaches that give a talent and skill that I don't have. That's now glued in. These could take my clients. They could say, listen, come with me. They could, but no, there's trust. And I'm looking to bring more in. So I'm collaborating coaches into my formulas that I am selling and paying those guys to spend time with my clients. I think this is so important. Don't think that, as a coach, you'll do it all. No, as a coach, you can do a particular style of coaching because that's all you've been brought up to know.
Have you ever had that trust kind of misused or kind of, has somebody ever gone against that trust and has that caused you a challenge?
No, not at all. Listen, you have to be sure that you have alignment with the people you're working with. They're coming in for the right reasons. And we know that, the people I work with know that I'm going to sell a product that they'll get paid from, but that client's going to get a lot from them. And those coaches are now being built into my clients' products that I'm building for them. So you see, you just keep growing it. So important to do that. Yeah, really cool. And what we're doing is we're supporting each other. Absolutely.
You've mentioned dyslexia. Is something I wanted to ask. That you are probably one of the best communicators that I know. You're up there, and I think especially when it's combined with your energy and enthusiasm. Do you feel that kind of some of that is dyslexia fueled in a way? That I've spoken to people with kind of from different areas of neurodiversity. And actually what they found is that what causes a problem in one area of their lives actually amplifies their skills in other parts of their life.
I'm not sure. I mean, I have a way of thinking, and I don't know. I don't know why or how it is I think in the layers I do think. I know that as a child I had a really good imagination and I was a full-on show off. And I just, I'm not really sure. It's never bothered me. My spelling is atrocious. When I read a sign, it doesn't really say what I read. That goes on. But I get myself up on a whiteboard and write all day long. And I know my clients have to climatize to it. It's as simple as that. They climatize to my spelling and they get used to it. But I think, in that way, I'm going to say that it does fuel me to, even if but saying that, Nick, we look at some of the most successful people in the world and they were dyslexic.
This is it. This is exactly what, and I just find it absolutely fascinating what some would consider a real kind of holdback. Gives people such a boost in different ways.
Absolutely. I think there is a process of thought that comes with dyslexia, and for everybody it's different. But for me, I see layers perhaps in a different way. I'm not sure. I just am who I am and I talk a lot.
Love that. And we're very pleased you do as well.
Bless you.
The question that I love to ask everybody that comes on the show is this. I am now the MC. Let's go with the Millennium Stadium. It's near you. I know the MC of the Millennium Stadium, 20,000 people have paid our hard-earned money to come and hear you do your thing. I'm just about to announce you to the stage. You're sat in the green room, you're kicking back, and your walk-on music kicks on. That song that motivates you, that lifts you, that gets you at peak state. Paul Rees, what would that walk-on music be for you, and why?
Oh man, it would have to be what was the name of the group? It was "Oh Lay Your Hands on My Soul." Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Good tune.
It would have to be that. It would have to be that because, you know, what we're asking people is to really see themselves, to see the best part of them, to really understand the importance of their soul, of their being. So it would definitely be that song.
Excellent. So all of Paul's details are in the comments below, the note section below. Please do subscribe and follow, and I'm sure Paul will be happy to hear from you if you have any questions. So please do connect with Paul. Paul Rees, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on there, Nick. It's been an absolute pleasure, my friend.
A legend. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Paul. It's been a pleasure to have you on. I knew it would be, and it's just been a great kind of episode to fit in before the end of the year as well. Great timing for a bit of motivation to push us all back over the line again into next year. So, and for everybody else, please stay tuned. We have the final couple of episodes coming up later this week, so please stay tuned. But for now, take care and see you then. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye. Bye. And that's a wrap. A big thank you for tuning into today's episode. Please do leave us a like and hit subscribe for the fantastic upcoming episodes that I will be bringing to you, featuring more amazing guests. But for now, be well, be happy, be safe, and remember, as I always say, it's what you do next that counts. Until next time on the Nick Elston Show, take care. I'll see you soon. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.